Hey there, folks. Welcome to this is Foggy. Welcome to day 199 of my year of solo board gaming. So I took some time to finally read up a little bit more about the monster stuff in this game, and finally figured out a lot of my errors. So the last three games, I did not do a very good job of understanding how monsters work in this game. So hopefully, I will get it right this time. But essentially, it deals with what happens when monsters move into the same location as an investigator, what happens when monsters appear in a location with an investigator. There's also a lot of, I did not do any sort of exhausting monsters at any point, and that is something that I really should have done more of. So, for example, when you evade a monster, you have to then exhaust it, and that means that monster will not do anything until the next monster attack, at which point it becomes ready again. Which is a good way to basically avoid some of the nastier monsters. So I'm going to put up all three videos. I'm a little embarrassed by the last one because I did get it so wrong. But we are about to start a new campaign. It is going to be a little bit of a longer campaign, and then we're not going to do like the other two that I have, but we'll do this one. At least not right now. This is the Dunwich Legacy. And I'm using an investigator from the set, from this set, Zoe Samaras, the chef. I'm also using an investigator from the original set, Daisy Walker, the librarian. And I felt like this would be an interesting little pairing. Here I forgot to give Zoe her resources. I've done the full setup. I'm using the recommended deck for the most part. Zoe's and Daisy's recommended sets overlap a little bit, so instead of... That was loud. Instead of giving Zoe everything that's recommended, I just basically follow the deck building guidelines, picked her out a few additional cards. So she's got a little bit of a different set than usual, but I think it'll be pretty useful. With that having been said, let me go ahead and read the introduction to this. Their hands is at your throats, yet ye see them not. I'm going to burn his accursed diary, and if you men are wise, you'll dynamite that altar stone up there, and pull down all the rings of standing stones on the other hills. Things like that brought down the beings those Watleys were so fond of. And that is from H.P. Lovecraft, from the Dunwich Horror. And we're going to go into the prologue first. This is an interesting little setup. You have your choice of adventure to start, where to start. And then when you go to the second adventure, you'll then do something a little bit different. Dr. Henry Armitage pours himself a glass of Pinot and sits down at his desk, gesturing for you to sit across from him. I apologize for the short notice. He begins. His face is pale, his forehead sweaty and wrinkled with worry. Armitage, the head librarian of Miskatonic University and a former mentor of yours, privately contacted you in the hopes of gaining your assistance. Eager to help, you made your way to his home in Southside. Upon entering, you were surprised to find his home in disarray. Books and notes litter his desk, and an empty bottle of wine is tipped over onto the ground by the fireplace. You'd always known Armitage to be neat and well organized. The elderly man takes a moment to collect his thoughts. I'm looking for two of my colleagues, Dr. Francis Morgan, Professor of Archaeology, and Warren Rice, Professor of Languages. Warren was supposed to meet up with me over supper earlier today to discuss several important findings, but he has since gone missing. At first I thought nothing of it, but I have a nagging feeling something else is going on. A very familiar feeling. You've never seen Armitage quite this worried before. His hands tremble as he reaches for the glass on his desk, and he sips it from it nervously. I tried to find Francis, hoping he knew where Warren was, but he too is out of touch. Francis has been spending a lot of time in some gambling den, or so I'm told. I sent for you because I'm worried Warren might be in trouble. I would appreciate it greatly if you could find him for me. You may also wish to ask Francis for help if you can reach him. And now you have to choose between Scenario 1A, Extracurricular Activity, or Scenario 1B, The House Always Wins. And it's basically if you want to find Professor Rice first or Dr. Morgan first. And so we're going to go for Dr. Rice first this time. I have done this campaign before, and I'm just going to briefly show you my campaign notes so you can see. Make a copy of these before you actually start to adventure. But I decided to go with The House Always Wins last time. So this time around we're going to do Extracurricular Activity. And we already have everything all set up. There are 6 locations here. There are a couple other locations set aside. We are playing the easy mode because, again, I'm not very good at this. And my feeling is that in this scenario, Daisy's the librarian at the school. Zoe is the chef. They are a couple. And Zoe is basically trying to protect Daisy because she knows Daisy's kind of naive and just basically kind of sort of a Velma to her Daphne, to borrow a Scooby-Doo reference, and that is the only Scooby-Doo reference you'll hear here. And with that having been said, we're going to go ahead and get started here. Currently, they are at Miskatonic Quad. I have the option to resign if I want. I could just go, you know what, I'm done. I'm good. Daisy is going to take the lead, though, and she's got a couple different cards. She's got Daisy's tote bag, Dr. Milan Christopher, manual dexterity, hyper awareness, and finally emergency cash. Now, something I had not realized before: if you are using a card, let's say for its values, like I want to use hyper awareness just for the two little bonuses up here, you don't pay the cost. You're just using it as a boost. If I wanted to play this as a skill, though, like this one, obviously there is no cost. And then if I wanted to play this as an actual event, I should pay the cost that's on it. Interestingly enough, also, if you are engaged with a monster and you do anything other than something related to the monster, parlay, fight, evade, that is when the monster gets a free attack. And that is something to keep in mind as well. So we're going to start off. We are going to go ahead and have her just simply... before she's basically a little shy. She just wants to kind of look around first, but she wants to be ready for it. So she's going to get 3 resources. She is going to go ahead and get her tote bag out for 2 of those resources. This will basically allows her to carry 2 extra hand slots, which can be used for tome assets. Unfortunately, I don't have any. And I think she's then going to move. And looking at the different buildings that we have, she's going to go to the Orne Library because that's where she probably feels the most home. So we're going to flip that. And I do want to try to make sure that I am careful about following the little guidelines here. So this is a gray triangle. There's a gray triangle here. This will also go to the Humanities building as well as back to the Miskatonic Quad. So in the Orne Library, you must spend 1 additional action to investigate the Orne Library. Oh, that blows. We're going to have 2 clues here, 1 per investigator. Zoe, I was thinking about having Zoe stick with her, but I think what I'm going to do is have Zoe get her flashlight ready. Okay, so that's going to be 2 resources. She is going to head off to... I think she's going to head off to the Humanities building so she can be close. That way they can go back and forth between these 2, as well as the Miskatonic Quad. Let's flip this over. Forced. At the end of your turn, if you are in the Humanities building, discard the top X cards of your deck, where X is the amount of horror on you. Well, fortunately, there's no horror on me, so I don't have to worry about that. We're going to have a whopping 4 clues here. But this has to be investigated using, and I need to put 3 supplies on here. This is investigated using a level of 3, and I've only got 2 to search with. I do have right of seeking, which would be good, except I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just use flashlight, emergency cash, and gain 3 resources. So far, nothing too spooky has happened. I am ending my turn here. So now there are no enemies out, so we're going to go into the Upkeep Phase. I draw an additional card. She pulls out a flashlight. That'll be helpful. And then she pulls out Steadfast. And they each get a resource. So Steadfast is kind of a neat card. It's a skill. This is actually from the Circle Undone deck. When you have 10 or more total health remaining, which she does, she's got 15 right now still, Steadfast is worth 3 head and 4 fight. 3 fight, 3 head. So that is going to be very helpful, potentially. All right, so we're going to go on to the next, to the Mythos Phase. We're going to do a Doom token. Now, this has got a Doom token of 7, so we got a ways to go before we advance the agenda, which is nice. Terror from Beyond, Peril. Revelation, choose one of the following card types: asset, event, or skill. Each player must discard each card in their hand that is of that chosen card type. If this is not the first copy of Terror from Beyond drawn this phase, which I assume is a reference to the agenda, choose 2 card types instead. So it is the first, so we only have to choose 1. And I think So I don't have any event cards over here. She has got one event card over here, so I'm going to choose event. And unfortunately, that gets rid of dodge, which is a really nice card to have, but I think we'll be okay. Treachery, Ancient Evil. Place one doom on the current agenda. This effect can cause the current agenda to advance. See, I shouldn't have opened my mouth. But so far, much nicer, much easier to deal with. All right, so this is going to take 2 actions. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bring in Dr. Milan Christopher, who is her buddy, shown up. She's going to get +1 to book. So now she's got a 6 for book. And so she'll investigate because she's got +3 on that. 6 to 3 right now. However, this will take her remaining 2 actions. She cannot do anything else this round. Star. +0. If you succeed, draw 1 card for each tome you control. Well, I don't control any tomes yet, so unfortunately I don't get to draw any cards. I do, however, because of Dr. Milan Christopher, after you successfully investigate, gain 1 resource. So I'll gain a resource in addition to picking up this clue here. And unfortunately, that's it for me. So I'm going to have to stick with that right now. She is going to investigate. She is going to need the flashlight, however. So she gets, it's going to be -2 to the shroud, which is 3 right now. So that brings it down to 1. She is going to be doing 2 to 1. She's got a +1 on it. There's nothing really else she can do. Actually, you know what she can do before she does that? Sorry. What she can do is she can bring out her Right of Seeking, and that is going to cost her 4. We're going to put 3 charges on it. And what this does is investigate using head, which for her is 2 better. If you succeed, discover 1 additional clue at this location. If, and there's a whole bunch of different symbols, is revealed during this test. After this test resolves, lose all remaining actions and immediately end your turn. So she is going to go ahead and use this. And it means that she's going to investigate using... I don't think I can combine the 2, unfortunately. So either way, it is a +2. So what I think I'm going to do, that was my first action. I'm going to play 1 with the flashlight. I'm going to do 1 flashlight. And that means that it'll be -1 here. So I'm +1 on the search. And the reason I'm doing it that way is that if I lose on Right of Seeking, it'll be my last action anyway. So -1, it is still enough to find a clue, so I've found a clue. I will now use Right of Seeking. So now I'm using my mind instead of the Humanities building. That is going to give me a plus... that's going to give me 4 to 3. And I'm going to go ahead and commit Guts to it. So that is going to make it 6 to 3. So now that is a much nicer way to do it. And the reason is this will also allow me to discover 1 additional clue if I am successful and draw a card. It is -2. Fortunately, and I'm glad I committed Guts to it, I am successful because it was, again, 6 to 3. This brings it down to 4 to 3, but that is still a success. I discover 2 clues at this location. And I get to draw a card. Smoking Pipe. Oh, that's good. All right. This is one of the other cards that was not recommended for Zoe, but was available to her. All right, so Zoe is done. That's the last thing that she can do. So now we're on to the monster upkeep phase. No monsters still currently on the board. So we go to upkeep phase. We draw some cards. She draws Blinding Light. And she is going to draw Beat Cop, which is an ally. So I can probably bring an ally out. Okay. I also want to try to make sure I'm paying attention to the little symbols down on the bottom, because I think I was a little too lax about that in the first 3 games. We're now on to the Mythos phase. We're going to put a Doom token here. We're at 3 out of 7. Daisy draws locked door. Attach this location with the most clues, and without a locked door attached. The attached location cannot be investigated. Test 4 to break down the door, and wow, that is frustrating. Let's go ahead and put it on the Orne Library. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it right here. And the reason I'm doing that is I'm going to be okay with giving up the other clue there, I think. It is a bit of a mistake, I think, maybe, to put it there, because she's going to then have to knock down the door, but I'm not too worried about that. I don't really care. She doesn't have enough strength to do it. We're just simply going to have her get the clue from someplace else. Zoe draws Visions of Future Past, Revelation, Test, Horror 5, and for everyone that we fail by, we are going to lose a card off the top of our deck. All right, I'm not going to worry too much about pulling anything here. -1. Okay, so unfortunately, we lose by 2 because our normal one is 4. Yeah, that's a bummer. So we are going to lose 2 cards off the top of our deck. We lose Liquid Courage, and we lose Dynamite Blast. Oh, that's a bummer. That is a bummer. Be nice if we lost a weakness that way. All right, so now we go to the next turn. Zoe's not really got much of a choice here. Daisy's not got much of a choice. She could come here and get the last clue, but I think Zoe's in a good spot to get this last clue. So she's going to first of all head back to the Miskatonic Quad because she's only got 2 places she can go. And then she's going to head to the Student Union. Forced, after Student Union is revealed, put the set-aside dormitories into play. All right, well, we set aside a dormitories earlier. And so we'll put that over here. And there are 2 clues total. Oops, those are not clues. Silly me. All right, and so she is going to investigate. She's got a Shroud of Intelligence of 5, Book of 5, and this has got a Shroud of 1. So she's +4 on this. I'm really hoping. Oh, actually, she's +5 on this because I forgot. Milan actually has a nice little bonus there. So it's 6 to 1, -1. So that is success. She investigates successfully, and she gets a free resource as a result. And unfortunately, she doesn't have anything else that she can really do. She has an extra action she can take, but can only be used on tome abilities. So I really need a tome to come out, which I was surprised how few tomes there are. I feel like with Daisy's deck, you want to stack it up with tomes, but there were not that many tomes to choose from. However, that's the end of Daisy's turn. So first, Zoe's going to investigate this. I'm going to investigate using the flashlight. So it's going to be a +1. And the reason I'm doing it that way is that I really don't want to end the turn. And I don't need to worry about picking up the extra clue. It's -1. It is a success because it was 3 to 2. No, sorry, 2 to 1. And so the -1 is still not enough. So she gets this. And now we can advance the act. And does not cost an action. Oh, I should have probably read this earlier. Professor Rice was last seen several hours ago by one of Armitage's students in the Humanities Building. So we're going to flip this over, but I have a feeling that this is going to affect the Humanities Building. Because we have enough clues now to spend on this. And this is not something where you had to go to a specific spot to do it. So you were unable to find Professor Rice, but one of the students you spoke with mentioned a strange man entering Rice's office. Unfortunately, the door leading to the facilities office is locked at this late hour. The student said that the head janitor, Jazz, might be able to let you in if you can find him. Shuffle the encounter discard pile and the set-aside Jazz Mulligan, not Muggle, into the encounter deck. All right, so we're going to take this. I'm okay with that because the cards that we've had so far are actually pretty mild. I'm not sweating it. There's Jazz. And we kind of want Jazz to come out, I think. We want Jazz to help out with this in some manner. Now, this does not count as an action, so Zoe is still on her first turn. I think what we're going to have her do is head to the student union, basically so they can hang out there together. The other location where they can go is now to the dormitories, and I think what I want to do is... All right, so I'm going to read this just briefly. The door leading into the dormitories is locked. You cannot move into the dormitories. So we cannot do that until we actually figure out what we're supposed to do with Jazz. Boy, this is a lot of shuffling. So maybe what I should do is head to the science building or the administration building. All right, that is now shuffled to my content. So let me see. I'm going to go here. I guess the other thing I could do is I could play the beat cop, bring him out, get him ready to start being active. I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. This turn right now feels kind of extra, and what I don't want to do is I don't want to do something that opens up a building that then leads to horror. So we're going to get ready for the next turn. She's got no resources now, unfortunately. Daisy's got all the resources, but now they're done. There's no monsters currently out, so we're going to each draw a card. She gets Magnifying Glass. This is a fast get +1 while investigating. That is nice. That's an asset. This is 45 automatic. This is a weapon, which is nice. We don't have any weapons out yet. And they're both going to get 1 resource. It's going to be a bit before I can get that 45 automatic out to play. So now we're going to put a Doom token here. We're at 4. Visions of Future Past. And then this is the same thing as before. We're going to test our horror, which for me is 3. And there's nothing here that's a plus. So we're going to draw the card because one of the negatives might come up, which would not be good. 0. So we fail. Plus, it's also, you have to account for how many you fail by. So in this case, we are failing by 2. So we're going to lose the top 2 cards. I lose my Research Librarian and Barricade, which is unfortunate. And then Zoe also draws Visions of Future Past. So she's got a 4. She's got a little bit better to work with here. She draws the Skull. It's -1, and so we're going to lose 5 cards off the top of the deck, and that's not great. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I lose my cross, but I also lost my weakness. So that feels okay. Actually, it doesn't feel great. I don't like losing my cross like that. That sucks. And the reason that happened is that on this card, the Skull is -1. If you fail, discard the top 3 cards of your deck. So I probably should have committed Steadfast to this, and I would not have failed. So I've made my first big error of the game. And I'm not going to mulligan that because I mulliganed way too much in the previous 3 games. And I want to play this fairly. So we're now off to deal with this. She could probably go ahead and... So a fast card does not take an action. So we're going to go ahead and have her play the Magnifying Glass. She still has 3 actions to work with. She's got a 7 now for books. So she's going to investigate the student union. This is a +6. She pulls out a 0, so she succeeds. She's got another plus here. There is no... I should actually take a look at this before I go too much further. Concern for Professor Rice's safety, you seek out the head janitor who can let you into the locked section of the campus. Spend 1 clue. Discard the top 5 cards of the encounter deck. If you discard Jazz Mulligan for any reason, resolve his revelation effect. And the whole point is to take control of Jazz Mulligan. So every clue that we have is going to help us out with that. We've got 1 clue now. I may as well spend it to try to see if I can get Jazz Mulligan out. So we're going to discard 5 cards off the top of the deck. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And none of them are Jazz Mulligan. All right, so she is going to go. She can't go to the dormitories yet. What happened to my dormitories? Oh, it's down here. Never mind. Never mind. We'll just put that there. She can't get into the dormitories yet, so she's going to have to come back to the Miskatonic Quad, and then I think head over to the Science Building with the help of Zoe. Zoe, after Science Building is revealed, put the set-aside Alchemy Lab into play. So she's here now. This is going to get 2 clues. And we are putting the Alchemy Lab into play. This door is locked. We cannot go into it until we reveal. We cannot reveal to get it open yet. So we are going to have Zoe move here. And she's going to investigate. Now, here's the thing. I could use Rite of Seeking. I'd rather not. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use Flashlight. This will be the last of the flashlights that I can use. So this will go away. This is going to make it a 0 shroud. So I'll have +2 on this to get a clue. 0, so I succeed. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm immediately going to use this clue and spend it. And trying to find Jazz Mulligan. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thrall, Whippoorwill, Offer of Power, Eager to Death, Yithian Observer. So unfortunately, none of those are it. So those are all my moves. We're now going to go on to the monster phase. There are no monsters out. We're going to go on to the upkeep phase. She pulls out Perception, which is really just not a card she needs right now. And then she's Kukri, which is a cooler version of the knife. And I think she's probably going to pull that out shortly. It's one of the few things that can do +2 damage. God, that coffee's cold. All right, so we're going to go on to the next part of the Mythos phase. We're at 5 now. First, I'm drawing Light of Aphorgomon. You must attach Light of Aphorgomon either to the current agenda or the current act. And limit 1 per agenda act. Treat all damage as direct damage and all horror as direct horror. I'm not sure what that means. So I feel like we're probably closer to flipping over the act. So I'll put it over there. Eager for Death. Test Skull 2. Increase the skull's difficulty by 1 for each damage on you. If you fail, take 2 horror. So fortunately, I don't have any horror. So it is going to be a 4 to 2. However, if I fail this, I'm going to take 1 damage. And so what I want to do is I think at this point I am going to play my Steadfast card, which is going to be +3. So I am at 7 compared to 2, which I think means pretty much I cannot fail. Star, +1. So that is a success. We get to ignore this card. Probably not the best time to use that, but that's life. All right, so that is it for that part of the phase. Now we're going to go on to the player phase. Daisy's just simply going to investigate. She's got 7, I think, for right now for investigation, and there's a 2 shroud. So since she's got +5, the cultist, -1, -3 if there are 10 or more cards in your discard pile. I think that's irrelevant. There are not, so it's -1. It's still not enough to make a difference. We are successful. We're going to go ahead and use that clue immediately. So for her second turn, she's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and hopefully pull out Jazz Mulligan. Whippoorwill. Nope, still no Jazz Mulligan. All right, so as her last move, I guess she's going to go back to... So her options here are to go to the Alchemy Lab, which she cannot do, or Miskatonic Quad. She'll go back to Miskatonic Quad. Zoe will have to go Miskatonic Quad down to the Administration Building. Forced, after Administration Building is revealed, put the set-aside faculty offices into play. And I'm going to lose a turn if I stay here. That blows. So Zoe's actually not going to stick. She's going to go right back here. She's losing cards out of her deck way too fast. This is going to take 2 clues. Daisy will come here and investigate. Oh, and I did successfully investigate, so I should have gotten an additional resource for Dr. Merlan. So, excellent. No monsters are currently out. We're going to draw a card each. And each get a resource. And now we advance this. Ancient Evils, place 1 Doom on the token. This can cause the agenda to advance, and that is exactly what just happened. Crap. Well, I should have put the Light of Abergon, whatever that is, on this side, since we were flipping this first. The university is dead silent. The shadows coil about your feet as you walk. You swear there is something following you with each step you take. Is it your imagination, or is there really someone or something stalking you? Each investigator with 5 or more cards in his or her discard pile takes 1 horror. Each investigator with 10 or more cards in her discard pile takes 2 horror instead. If the players have already completed the house always wins, advance directly to Agenda 2B. If it's the first scenario in the campaign, advance to Agenda 2A. So we've already advanced to 2A, so we don't have to worry about that. However, she's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So she is unfortunately going to take 2 horror, which is not great. She's only got 6 horror to begin with. And Daisy's going to take 1 horror. All right, so, and now we do the other card, because Zoe still has to draw a card. Wizard of Yog-Sothoth. Pray the least cards in hand. So that is going to be Zoe. So the wizard is going to come out, and it's going to enter Zoe's threat area. She does not have a way to attack, but we can't really do anything yet. So Zoe's like, I'll take care of this guy. You run. Go get those clues. So she heads off this way. This is... I'm going to commit this so that I do not fail. It's an 8. I'm probably going to end up losing the top card of my deck because I want to get both these clues. Actually, no. As soon as I use 1 clue, I'm going to just go for Jazz Mulligan again. So right now I am at 7, 8, 9. I'm at 9 going against a 4. -1. All right, so I get 1 clue. I will immediately spend it to try to see if I can find Jazz Mulligan. We are running out of cards in this deck. This is insane. Terror from Beyond, Thrall. Wow, holy cow. I did put him in here. You saw me put him in here. All right, that is the end of her turn. So I'm going to have to bring out the automatic, except I don't have enough resources to do that, so I will bring out the Kukri. Now, because I am doing that, I do have to take some damage. So I'm going to take 2 horror and 1 body, which is not good. Another attack, and I'm done for. So I will attack once. Oh, can I even attack this much? Yeah, I know what I'm gonna have to do here. All right, so I'm getting, my fight is 6 right now. And I think that's it. I should have held off on Steadfast until then. So I have +2. So fortunately, I drew a -2, and that is even, Steven. Oh, and after you become engaged with an enemy, gain 1 resource. I forgot to do that. So I am successful. I will spend an additional action and also then discard the Beat Cop, and that will do 3 damage total to the Wizard of Yog-Sothoth. And that goes into our victory pile, because that is worth 1 point at the end. Now, the discard here is an immediate action. It's got a little lightning bolt, so it does not cost an action to do. So that does mean that... Oh, and I forgot to discard here. since she ended her turn there. The Necronomicon. One thing I should check is Revelation, if that applies to both. Discarding and playing. Yeah, I think discard actually ignores Revelation. Yeah, as far as I can tell, discard is not. So the anything that has Revelation on it, like this weakness thing, it's when it enters your hand. So if you're discarding, it's not entering your hand. You're just simply discarding it. So like I said, like I mentioned earlier with the paranoia for Zoe, I think that just means that I get to ignore it since it goes straight to discard. So that's a plus. Being in the administration building actually helped me. Zoe's done, Daisy's done, and so any monsters that were out would attack. Unfortunately, fortunately, there are none. We're not going to have many. This has got a low threshold. This is like 3. All right, first is a Thrall. Spawns at the location with the most clues. So that will be Daisy, unfortunately, so that will engage with her. And then Jazz Mulligan. Revelation. Put Jazz Mulligan into play at your location. When Jazz Mulligan is not controlled by an investigator, he gains Parlay Test Book 3. Right now I'm at +2. And I have an art student that I could use. And when you control Jazz Mulligan, you ignore the text on each unrevealed Miskatonic location. All right. So first up is Daisy. Daisy's got to evade. She's got 2 here. She's got manual dexterity. She could choose to evade this monster. I don't think there's any reason for her to try to fight. The fight is even. It's a +2 to fight. But I would rather just go ahead and use manual dexterity and just evade. So she's going to have +2 to that. It's a skull, -1. Not enough to fail, though. So I don't have to worry about discarding. So she is going to get, she evades that monster. There's no reason, I think, for her to try to get clues, so she's going to go straight back to Miskatonic Quad. She sees that Jazz is there, so she's going to try to parlay. She's at 7, and the test is for 3. And I'd really like to make sure that this happens, so I'm going to commit Flashlight to it for 1 more. Actually, no, because I don't think there's any situation where I have -5. This should, no matter what, unless it's a fail that comes up. But currently I'm at what? I'm at 7. He's got a 3. This is possible -4. 0. Okay, so I take control of Jazz Mulligan on my turn. He is now an ally. Or not. He's not an ally. There's no ally indicator. I'm looking down in the corner. So when you control Jazz Mulligan, you ignore the text on each unrevealed Miskatonic location. So now I can go ahead and unlock places. Let's go ahead and advance the whereabouts. You convince Jazz that something strange is going on and that Professor Rice may be in danger. He doesn't trust you enough to hand you his keys, but agrees to come with you. All of a sudden, you hear a crash coming from the science building, and a student rushes towards you. "Help!" he cries. "There's some kind of animal loose in the chem labs. I only barely caught a glimpse of it, but I think it's headed to the dorms. You've got to do something." If the alchemy labs location is not in play, you put it into play. If you're on Agenda 1 or 2, spawn the set-aside experiment in the alchemy labs. All right, so the experiment is going to come out. Oof, sheesh. Okay, so that's going to be fun. If you've completed The House Always Wins, and if extracurricular activity is the first, remove the set-aside alchemical combination from the game. So that's going to go away. Same with the faculty offices over there. All right, so there's that. Campus safety. You have only moments to react. You could warn the students in the dormitories and escort them to safety. Or continue your task of searching the faculty office as Professor Rice, or perhaps you could slay the beast that threatens the campus. Find and complete an objective on another encounter card. All right, so I have to check something real quick, whether or not, if I am controlling Jazz Mulligan, if Daisy is controlling, whether or not that's going to apply to the party, because I think it's the party that controls it, but I'm not entirely sure. Looking under control, see ownership and control, page 16. Ownership and control. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I think Daisy might have to, or Zoe might have to just wait a moment before going with. I'm going to do a quick Google search here. This is what, the extracurricular activity. Control of Jazz Mulligan. Because I do think I may have made a mistake by having Daisy take control. Looking for this information. This is a surprisingly... Okay, yeah, Daisy is required to enter. So Daisy does not have control. And I don't think there's any way to give ownership. Like, you can't trade cards in this game. There's nothing like that. So, unfortunately, I probably made a mistake by having Daisy take control of him. I think my feeling is that it probably would not have been the worst thing in the world to... You know what Zoe's going to do? Zoe's going to go deal with this thrall. Because that thrall is going to activate at some point. So she's going to go over here. She's going to fight the monster. But first she's going to bring the art student into play. Actually, I don't think we need a clue at this point. So I don't think there's any reason to do that. She's going to get +1 to fight. So her fight is normally 4. She's got 5, and she's trying to do 2 damage. So she draws her card. +1. It is a success. Pretty easily. And she's going to use both actions to take out the thrall. So the thrall is dead. And that is all of her actions. So now we're going to go to the monster phase. I don't think this monster actually goes anywhere. It's not got anything there. So we are going to... I think we then go to the upkeep phase. So each of these characters will draw a card. She's got Drawn to the Flame. She's got another flashlight. That's not really that helpful. They each get a resource. Daisy's overflowing in resources right now. Daisy's got... now we go to this phase. Ancient Evils. Oh, for Pete's sakes. That's twice now, Daisy. Come on. A cry of fear echoes through the campus, and several students flee from the eastern side of the university where the science building can be found. Could this commotion be linked to Professor Rice's disappearance? Move it 1 location towards the dormitories. So it is now going to go here. That's unfortunate. The Beast Unleashed. Some kind of wild creature is on the loose. Whatever it is, it appears to be headed towards the university dormitories. Forced. When the agenda would be advanced by reaching the doom threshold, instead remove all doom in play and move the experiment one location towards the dormitories. If the experiment enters the dormitory, advance. So we're not going to worry about flipping this until we actually get the experiment over to the dormitories. Our priority now is head to the dormitories. So we can't do that directly. And we still have to draw a card for Zoe. Sorry. Beyond the Veil. Revelation. If your deck has no cards in it, take 10 damage and discard Beyond the Veil. Oh, wow. So basically that is going to come into play if I run out of cards. So fortunately, I don't think it has any effect in this game, because I'm not doing too badly in terms of cards. I did forget that I was forced to flip this over, so I did not get the flashlight. I should have actually discarded that and instead got a knife. Okay, well, that's not that helpful. Daisy is going to head with Jazz Mulligan to the dormitories, but she's got to go through the student union first. That should be over there. Flip this over. If the investigators in the dormitory spend 3 clues as a group, R2. All right, so she's still got 1 action left that she can take. And they need to spend 6 clues total. So she's got to basically get a ton of clues here. She is going to investigate. It's only a 1, fortunately. So, and she's got a ton here. This is -1, -3 if there are more than 10 discards. Either way, that's enough. So she gains a clue and gets a resource. Zoe will bring the art student into play by spending 2 resources. The art student is now an ally. She gets the last clue that's here. And now Zoe's going to have to head towards the dormitory. So her other 2 actions are 1 and then 2. And that's as far as she can go. She's at the student union. Daisy is at the dormitory. The monsters this monster is not a hunter, so it's not going to move. And instead, we're going to go to the Upkeep Phase. I get Fearless and Smite the Wicked, which is a weakness. Discard cards from the top of the encounter deck until an enemy is discarded. Attach Smite to the Wicked and attach it to that enemy. So this is Zoe's specific trauma. And so I think I'm going to have to shuffle the discard deck here. That's Treachery, Ancient Evils. So I think now I do reshuffle the deck. The location farthest from me would be what? I think the Alchemy Labs. Because this would be 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So technically either the Faculty Labs or the Alchemy Labs. Faculty offices, I should say. So discarding. And we got a Whippoorwill. Aloof Hunter. Which is irritating. And basically it just causes a bunch of negatives. So Zoe's probably going to suffer 1 mental trauma from this. I don't think there's anything I can really do about that. And that is as far as that was the Upkeep Phase. Good Lord. Now we go on to the actual Mythos Phase. One of these comes out. Yithian Observer. Pray, fewest cards in hand. When Yithian Observer attacks you, discard 1 card from random at your hand. If you cannot, Yithian Observer deals +1 damage and +1 horror for this attack. So she has now got to deal with a lovely, lovely douche with a +4 attack. That's great. Offer of Power. You must either choose 1, draw 2 cards, and place 2 doom on the current agenda, or take 2 horror. Well, she can't take 2 horror. So she's going to have to take draw 2 cards. And this will cause this to advance, which in this case means that it will move 1 closer to the dormitories. So it's still got 2 more moves to go. So we still got a little bit of time, but not a lot. Daisy's up first. Daisy is going to have to evade. So she's got +2 to evade. Oof, good lord. She's going to try to evade with manual dexterity. She's going to get a +1 to this. I think there are some other cards I could commit, but I'm not going to. Skull, it's -1. I think -1. It's -3 if there are more than 10 cards. But fortunately, Daisy has not had to worry about that. So she is able to successfully evade this dork. All right. She is then going to play this card. It's an event. Does not cost any resources. She draws the top card of the encounter deck, which is a Thrall. Spawns in the location with the most clues, which unfortunately is here, so it will spawn here and then be active with her. And then she is going to discover 2 clues, though, as a result. So kind of defeated the purpose there of what I was trying to do. She's going to use 2 resources to evade using this spell. And this will use skull instead of brains instead of feet. So she's got 3 instead of 2. This gives her a +1 on it. This is -1. So that is successful. She is able to successfully evade. This also goes to the dormitory location, and they are both inactive. Unfortunately, that is all of her actions at the current point in time. All right, Zoe is going to head this way. I feel like it's in Zoe's best interest to just simply get the remaining 2 clues. And she can do that using the right of seeking, which will use head, which for her is 4 instead of books. It'll give her a +3. My concern I think I want to do just 1 regular. I'm going to do 1 regular just in case. I've still got a +1 to try to find it. I don't have any commitments that I can make towards it. And fail. Okay. The fail has a special thing that I keep forgetting about. I treat it as if I had a skill value of 0. So now I will use Right of Seeking. All right. And what I'm trying to do is get these 2 clues, because if I get these 2 clues, I can complete the game. 0. That is successful. That is successful. I get 2 clues total. And now we have a total of 6 clues. It does not take an action to spend them. We just simply have the 6 clues that we need. And that allows us to go to R2. Find and complete an objective on another encounter card. So I don't think we actually flip this. We just simply read the R2 that's in the book. All right, R2. You pull each of the dormitory's fire alarms and usher the students out of the building's north exit, hoping to make your way off campus. Many of the students are confused and exhausted, but you believe an attempt to explain the situation will do more harm than good. Minutes later, a terrible screech echoes across the campus, piercing and shrill. You tell the students to wait and head back to the dormitories to investigate. Oddly, you find no trace of the strange creature, a prospect that worries you more than it relieves you. You hurry to the faculty offices to find Professor Rice, but there's no sign of him anywhere. In your campaign log, record that Professor Rice was kidnapped. Uh-oh. Where's our pen? Pencil. There we go. He went bye-bye. Rice kidnapped. In your campaign log, record that the students were rescued. Students rescued. In your investigator, each investigator earns experience equal to the victory X value of each card in the victory display. Well, unfortunately, there's only one card in the victory display, so we're each only going to get one experience, which is kind of frustrating. There's none on, I think, any of the other. Dormitories technically has one. I don't know if we get that. If we complete that objective, we get one. I think so. So I'm going to count it as one. Excuse me. And then finally, if this is the first scenario, proceed to 1B, House always wins. Otherwise, proceed to Interlude 1, Armitish's Fate. So our next adventure is going to be... Daisy ended up with a lot of resources. Look how many resources she has. This is insane. Zoe, unfortunately, is going to have one trauma because that whippoorwill never even came close to being a problem for her. We probably could have sent her, except she would have automatically been engaged by the experiment. The experiment just would have been really tough to beat, I think, no matter what. So Zoe's going to have one mental trauma going into the next game, which blows. Because she's already dealing with one negative. But that's pretty much it. I think not too shabby. Could have been a little bit better. I think there's no real way to... Apparently you can rescue Professor Rice. I'm just not sure how. I think you have to go to the administration building maybe, get over to the faculty offices. Yeah, so in the faculty office, you can get over here and try to rescue Professor Rice, which, you know, who knows? Maybe it's helpful, maybe it's not. But sorry, Professor Rice, you were not that important to us. We are going to get 2 victory points. We'll go ahead and spend those experience points off screen. Until tomorrow, I will talk to you later. Ciao, everybody, and do all the YouTube things, like, subscribe, and smash that bell for more notifications.